Hi, I'm August Bradley. Today we're going to do an overview of the dramatically enhanced version of my life operating system called Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults, or PPV, built in Notion. In this video, I'm going to, number one, explain what a life operating system is and why it's so life-changing. Two, give an overview of the Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults life operating system, or PPV. Then do a demo of key elements of the new Pro version of PPV in Notion. This channel began over 5 years ago, walking through the first ever life operating system in Notion. This started the whole trend of life operating systems in modern digital platforms. Since then, the system we built on this channel, Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults, has gone through 5 major upgrades. Then, about a year ago, it was completely rebuilt from the ground up to take advantage of the extensive enhancements in the Notion platform. We rebuilt PPV from the ground up to fully leverage Notion's new database capabilities at the foundational level, enabling better system structure than was ever possible previously. And this gave us the opportunity to incorporate years of learning, working closely with thousands of members of our life design community to greatly enhance the system. This video will be an intro for those new to a life operating system in Notion and an update with ideas for those who already have their own. Or even if you're not working in Notion, this will give a lot of ideas for any digital platform. But first, what is a life OS and why is it so valuable? Because life is messy. We are perpetually bombarded with demands on our time, conflicting urgent necessities, and a fire hose of information. By default, our lives drift toward chaos and reaction. Without an intentional system, we are not in control of the direction of our lives. We're just responding to the overwhelm of incoming demands. A life operating system provides a consistent, coherent structure so that we can keep track of all of the open loops in our lives, so that we can complete the ones that matter most and eliminate the ones that don't matter. We can identify what we care most about in life and consistently move toward it. Of course, you have to know what your life aspirations are to move toward them, and a good system will help you identify your aspirations based on what you value and what makes life meaningful to you. A life operating system brings ruthless prioritization and enables you to get shit done. It lights the way with clarity and provides guardrails to keep you on track. All of this is liberating because it alleviates the anxiety and dread that arises in life when you're not living deliberately with intention. PPV had 5 version upgrades, and in the past year, we rebuilt it from the ground up. Through all of this, I have worked in close collaboration with my wife and business partner, Jane. Jane has become probably the most exceptional Notion expert that you've never heard of. She doesn't like to be in the public content sphere, but those in our Notion Life Design program get to know her well. Notion Life Design, or NLD, is where we teach the full implementation of the PPV life system. In addition to the extensive functional and technical insights that Jane brought to the system, she also gave it a stylistic overhaul, which makes it so much more enjoyable to work in day to day. Together, we leveraged 6 years of development based on closely working with thousands of PPV users in our membership community. The result is a PPV Pro system that is both simpler to use and quicker to work in, but also more comprehensive and more capable. In our Notion Life Design program, we provide the pre-built templates as well as the extensive training on how to use it, and more broadly, how to identify your life aspirations and how to implement systems to move consistently toward these aspirations. But NLD is far more than just a template and instructions. It is also a community of passionate life designers, a mastermind for business performance and for life enhancement, and it has additional courses beyond PPV training, plus ongoing workshops and a whole membership with support and training throughout the year. Woven throughout the Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults system is the practice of systems thinking. Systems thinking is the ability to think holistically and comprehensively about how different tiers of systems work together collectively. It's not only how an individual system works, but how it interacts and plays a role in the larger systems that it's a part of. And when you see these systems in their larger context, you discover new qualities arise through the interactions of various system components that don't exist in the individual components of the system by themselves. These qualities emerge from the dynamic interplay. Most people approach Notion having independent functions, a database for this, a dashboard for that, and that's valuable. But when you have them interconnected so that one informs the other, so that resources, ideas, and activities resurface in context in the right time and place, you get these emergent qualities that you don't have in segmented Notion workspaces. You want to build a Notion workspace where all the different elements complement and enhance each other. Different parts of your life inform each other. That's a true system. That's what Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults is all about. And the new Pro rebuild takes that to an entirely new level. If you're interested in systems thinking, there's a playlist on the YouTube channel that covers many aspects of it in more depth. I'll link that playlist below. The ultimate purpose of the PPV system is three things: focus, alignment, and knowledge resurfacing at the right time in the right place. Focus so that you can sit down and do the work, the thing that matters, the thing you know that you need to get done. But so often we dread and put off and resist. A system designed to enable focus will help you do the thing that you know you should do, but you keep putting off. Focus is how anything happens in life. We live in the now. Now is when we have to do the thing that matters. But we have endless distractions and an even greater number of justifications for doing something else. So a good system will help us zero in like a laser and get it done. Alignment. Alignment so that your weekly and daily actions are aligned to your highest life aspirations, which in turn are connected to your values and what you find most meaningful in life. So these high-level conceptual elements are directly and tactily connected through the system, layer by layer, all the way down to define your daily and weekly actions. So the specific things you sit down to do are in fact the things that will most advance movement toward your highest life aspirations. This is huge. This is game-changing. For years, most of us have done some kind of annual reflection and listed the goals we have for the year. And then as we go week by week, month by month, 6 months in, you don't have any recollection or connection to those original objectives you had set out for yourself. And many people don't even set yearly objectives. If they drift away and fade in your memory, they don't do you any good. You have to remain connected to them week by week, day by day. And you have to have a system, a structure that translates your highest life aspirations down through various tiers to very specifically tell you, today I'm going to do this. And then the focus part of the system kicks in and you do it. Productivity content talks constantly about how to be more efficient, but it's better to do the right things inefficiently than to do the wrong things efficiently. Whether it's work-related or family or mental clarity, creativity or creative output, all the things we care about. We need to identify our aspirations, prioritize them, set life aspirations that we really, really care about, the ones that really matter to us, then translate those down through various layers and tiers, breaking them down to this week's set of must-do activities, and then break them down to our daily objective so that it's all connected and aligned across all of the aspects of our life that we care about, not just work, but also personal goals, health goals, family objectives. All of this needs to be structured, broken down, and set so that each day and each week you are doing the things that actually move you toward what matters to you in your life. And finally, the third component of PPV is knowledge resurfacing in context at the right time and place. So that as we manage this fire hose of information coming at us, we have a way to curate what is relevant, put it into the system, and then have it resurface when we're working on the right project. It's all there with that project. When we're talking to a certain client, it's all coming back to that client. If we're working on some kind of expression or writing or communication or presentation, everything related to that topic is resurfacing and available for you then, and everything else is out of the way, invisible when it doesn't matter, when it's not needed. That is knowledge resurfacing in context. So let's look at a diagram to put all of these pieces of the system in their place. So here we have a diagram that lays out the whole system. The system is, of course, called Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults, and those are three of the central structural components. At the very top, we have pillars. Pillars are what you stand for and what you value in life. 2 videos ago, I did a whole video on how pillars have taken on a new role in the new PPV Pro system. This is that new elevated role for pillars. You can watch that video 2 videos prior to this one that I'll link to in the description below. But essentially, pillars are taking your values, what makes life meaningful to you, boiling it down through various levels. In our program, this is a long process that we guide members through, and it takes a while. It can take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or maybe a whole weekend, but it's a process to go through to boil this down. It's not easy, but you have to dig into your experiences and the things that have resonated with you and understand how those experiences have changed, how your reaction to them, how the meaning of past experiences has changed over different phases of your life, and understand that and then identify patterns and connect them and identify loops that are happening. And you boil this down into a set of words and phrases, anywhere from 2 to 6 pillars. These pillars will be either a single word or a phrase that will encapsulate a key element of what you want to stand for in life, what you value and what makes life meaningful to you. So you're going to boil this down into these very succinct words. And the value of boiling this down to a very precise, concise expression is that you can revisit it frequently. You can memorize it, always know it, and these will guide all the major decisions in your life. One of the biggest decisions in your life is what you set your life aspirations to be, which is the next tier. So pillars are up here and they define your North Star. And then we have the pipelines here, which are the stages of process, things that you work through to a point of completion. These are goals and actions and tasks and projects, things you're working through to achieve an outcome. And then vaults is where we capture that fire hose of information, all the knowledge you want to accumulate, all the resources that will be valuable for you as you do your work, as you live and grow and learn. These resources and knowledge components are going to be the ingredients that you will reflect on and filter through your life experience. And then in the process of doing the work and activities in your pipelines, you will use that and turn that into your own insights and your own view on the world and your own work that you contribute to the world and to your life and to your growth and to your family and to everything else. So pipelines are stages of process to a point of completion. Vaults are the resources and information and knowledge that we accumulate and collect and curate. And the pillars are the guiding North Star principle of what we're moving towards, how we want to represent ourselves in the world, and what matters to us at our core. So we take our pillars, we translate them into the life aspirations here. These are emotional. These speak to your heart. These are the vision of ultimately you want to achieve and accomplish in your life. It could be things like financial stability, where you don't have to worry about money and you can have the experiences you want, or a loving family, cultivating that outcome of a loving, caring family that supports each other. There are so many possibilities. Each person's will be different, but you'll develop these very specifically. You have to know what your life aspirations are if you're going to have a system and process and consistently move toward them. You have to know what the objective is. They can change at any time, of course. Pipelines, you then break these down to very practical, tactical goals. Most systems just start with goals. They skip life aspirations. And as a result, it's very transactional. Goals need to be time-bound. They need to be very specific toward an outcome. But if you're just trying to list outcomes, that doesn't speak to your heart. We start with life aspirations because that speaks to your heart. That speaks to the core of your being. And it's much easier to have ideas come of what you want to achieve when you're speaking from, a heart-bound place rather than an outcome, goal, achievement kind of place. So we start with our aspirations and then we translate those into goals so that we can make the life aspirations come to reality. So we have to have practical steps to achieve them. And then we start breaking those aspirations down into the broadest practical steps of big 3, 6, 12-month objectives, which are our goals. Then we have 2 potential engines to achieve our goals. We can set projects, which again are specific and time-bound, but shorter and smaller steps toward a bigger goal, or routines, what are often called habits, although habits is a misused term in that context. So we'll talk about them as routines. Routines are things you're doing regularly, especially things you don't do instinctively. Habits are things you do instinctively and don't have to schedule or plan because you just do them. Routines are things you're trying to design into your life that aren't as automatic as habits. So we're going to deliberately design routines. We can achieve our goals either through projects or through routines or through both. Most systems you'll see out there will have goals and projects, but they completely ignore the importance of routines as being equally powerful as projects to achieve your goals. So we have the 2 built into the structure of the system at an equal level, contributing equally, and equally capable of monitoring and assessing their progress inside the system. And then projects and routines both translate ultimately into the smaller components of the actions you're doing on any given day, the specific action that's planned to implement during a set of 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. You're going to have a specific action you're going to take to achieve it. A bunch of actions will build up to a whole project or a whole regular routine, which will then advance your goals, which will then achieve your life aspirations. And we cue these all up so that we're consistently moving toward our life aspirations. All of this is fueled by the knowledge and information and resources we accumulate from all aspects of our lives. These are in the vaults component. So pipelines would be akin to other systems you've probably heard of, such as GTD. That's about getting things done. Vaults is more akin to knowledge management systems, such as Para or Second Brains that you hear about out there. That's all about accumulating the knowledge to achieve the things you want to achieve. So you have the resources well situated to achieve what you want to achieve. We take it further by connecting the vaults to the pipelines in the same system so that the knowledge and information and resources in the vaults will resurface everywhere that it's relevant in the pipelines and elsewhere in your system. And all the pipeline information that's relevant will automatically resurface in the vaults when we're looking at specific topics and knowledge accumulation centers in the system. So both are resurfacing in context in the other area, which is something you don't get when you have a separate GTD system and a separate Second Brain knowledge management system. There's just so much power in integrating them together. And then, of course, when they're all serving a pillars structure, you have the ultimate system. And I just haven't seen anyone else bring all these components together. That's why I feel this is my mission to get these ideas out there, because it truly changes your life when all of these things are working together in tandem. So in the vaults, we have a top-level topic vault. In the old system, some of you may be familiar with what we call the knowledge vault. It's just renamed to the topic vault for the sole purpose of it just being clearer. This is the database in Notion where we will accumulate all the learning and information and resources on any given topic. So instead of saying that the knowledge vault is where we aggregate knowledge and learning by topic, we'll just call it the topic vault to be clearer up front, but it's the same thing. Then we have a single database called neurobits. These are all the individual component discoveries, ideas, notes, videos we've come across that are valuable, courses we've taken, books we've read. Each of them goes into the neurobits, and then they flow into relevant topics and across all other aspects of the system. And the neurobits will be organized into 3 different segments: media, notes, and documents. We used to break it out into lots of different databases, media vault, courses vault, a tools and resources vault, but it's not necessary. Media is media. It doesn't matter whether it's a YouTube video or a podcast or an article. It's media that's informing your learning for a topic. Notes are things that you're capturing typically from your own thinking, although it could vary. It could be other people's notes if you're bringing them into the system. And documents are external items that are useful as resources to attach and have connected to the system. But with this topic vault, we can now see by topic, not only across all of the neurobits that we've accumulated, though that by itself is immensely powerful, but also across all other aspects of our system, all the goals, all the clients, all the people, everything else that's relevant to that topic. We get a view across the whole system by topic in the topic vault. We'll see more of that in the system demo. And then cycles. Systems by their nature will entropy and decay. They will drift into fragments and they will migrate towards chaos. We prevent this through our cycles process. At the highest level, we do an annual review and reflection and planning. And then we have 2-month duocycles where we do a bigger picture, breaking down the 12 months into 6 duocycle intervals. And then we do weekly reviews and daily entries. At each of these levels, we're making sure anything that's getting loose or messy or straying gets strained and brought back into the structure, and that we're setting the right objectives for the next interval, whether it's a 2-month duocycle or a weekly review or a daily entry. The last video I did on the YouTube channel was on duocycles. If you want to see more about why that's so much more powerful than the standard quarterly and monthly reviews, that whole video goes into that. But with this, we keep everything on track. In the daily entries, and in some cases the weekly entries, we can track data and information that will let us know how we're doing, give us feedback on what's working and what's not. And then at the bottom tier, we have some breakouts here by personal work and connections, meaning relationships. These give us dashboard windows into the whole system for those slices. Now let's do a high-level look at the system in action. So this is going to be a brief walk through some of the key elements and primary dashboards of the PPV Pro system. This will give a look at some of the changes for those who saw the original YouTube series on this channel, and perhaps it'll give some new ideas to people who have not put a life system in place of what the possibilities are to have a structured system that helps you achieve your life aspirations consistently. The dashboard is really just an introduction to the various aspects of the system. It's got some quick buttons to add various types of entries. These entries will make more sense once we walk through the system. But the whole system is really structured around 3 super mega capable dashboards: the alignment zone, the focus zone, and the knowledge zone. Just like we talked about previously, PPV is about 3 things: focus, alignment, and knowledge resurfacing in the right time and place. So you'll see these 3 zones are perfectly structured for those objectives. We're going to start with the alignment zone because this is really the heart of the system. This is where we identify what matters most to us in life and structure the alignment so that daily and weekly we're consistently working towards those life aspirations. Now we have a navigation at the top of all of our dashboards. These are key elements of it. We have our life aspirations, which we just spoke about, and we'll go into more detail in a moment. We have GPR. This is the goals, projects, and routines database, and it creates a beautiful hierarchy with great visibility into how projects and routines are fueling and accomplishing our goals. And then we have our cycles, which are those review periods where we both track and monitor how we're doing. We learn from each iteration and we improve in the next iteration. Annual review and planning. We have a whole visualization page that will take the information and activity across our system and put it into visuals using Notion's charts and graphs feature. And it brings a lot of clarity toward what's working and what's not, where we can improve and what is serving us best. And then longtime followers of the channel will recognize the mindset and identity sculpting process and part of the system. We have a previous video on that if that's of interest, but that is how we shape our mindset and our view of ourselves. Mindset is how we frame the world around us, and we have a lot of choices in how we frame the world. Some of those choices lead to a framing that will serve us and enable us to succeed and thrive in the world. Other framings of the world will beat us down and will make it impossible for us to really progress and improve our place in life. We learn to structure our frame of the world to serve us. Similarly, identity sculpting, while mindset is about looking out in the world, identity sculpting is about framing your view of yourself, which is equally important because we are the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. And we have a lot of control over what those stories are. Some of those stories will help us and build us up. Some of those stories will tear us down. We need to learn to shape our own identity in a way that serves us best. And we have a whole process for that. And then of course we can jump to any of the other zones. Closing the navigation, we start here with the pillars and purpose. This is all a hierarchy. At the top, it's the broadest, most conceptual, and then it gets more tactical and specific and actionable as we go further down. Pillars and purpose is what we talked about 2 videos ago. This goes into more depth there, but this is how we go through this long thought process and reflection and connect the dots of our life to identify what we value and find most meaningful in life, and then filter this down to guiding principles, and then filter this down even more sharply and precisely to pillars. So we have a very clear, always with us frame of what matters to us most in life as we make decisions. One of those biggest decisions is what we define as our life aspirations. That is the next tier here in the active life aspirations sections. You can have active ones and inactive ones. Typically in life aspirations, they will broadly be active, and you will shape these very specifically. Now you'll see in the system design, we have these views into each of the life aspirations. We might have 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and we have these blocks of data that are resurfacing in just the top level glance view. What are some of the key elements of how we're moving our life toward these life aspirations? And as you go into any of these, you've got a whole dashboard that helps you break down and structure how you're going to actually achieve that. And these pull from other aspects of the system. So once we've defined our life aspirations, one of the things we do here is we identify the goals that we're going to set out and accomplish in order to move toward that life aspiration. And you can have one or many goals at any given time for your life aspirations, but you should always have, for any active life aspiration, you should always have at least one active goal to ensure that progress is being made. Then down here, we see our goals. Now, goals are more action-oriented than life aspirations, so they have a lot more information and activity around them. So you can see these summaries have more detail. One of the great things of the new PPV system is we have these auto data blocks that through Notion formulas are resurfacing in context at a top-level glance relevant information pertinent to each of these goals. Then we also have relevant relations and roll-ups, bringing all the relevant data into the goal so that anything related to that goal you can see in that goal. You can see this goal has one active project and one active routine. That's resurfacing. It has 11 actions, 4 topics, 3 neurobits, and 2 people associated with it. That's all rolling up through the formula, resurfacing in that context. Now, you don't need to know formulas to use PPV if you're working in our program. This is set up and it just works for you in the background and provides the information you need. You don't never need to use formulas in our program, though we teach it. And if you want to, of course you can. And then in this goal page, you'll see we then can plan out the projects and routines that are underneath it, that are advancing this goal. Again, you can advance a goal either by projects or through routines or both. Now, by default, when you unfold the template, it won't have any of these project or routine blocks because Like I said, some goals have projects advancing their completion. Some projects only have routines advancing their completion. Some have both. So you don't want to clutter the space with unnecessary blocks if it's all driven by projects or routines. So you will click the button to create the block for the relevant projects if there are projects, and you'll do it for routines if and only if there are routines. And then here it will list all the relevant ones you have, and then you can add new ones right here. It'll bring in all the data for the goal automatically and connect it, and then you will define the new project or the new routine. We could either drill down into those projects and routines through the goal page, or to keep it in context here, let's slow down on the alignment zone page. Now we're coming down into our goals, but now we have the goals broken out with the projects and routines under them, which is just such a beautiful way to visualize the relationship between a goal and its projects and routines that are helping you achieve it. And so it just brings total clarity to what's going on and what's not. This view is for active ones, but you can also see a broader range of perspectives. One is by urgency, another is with grouped blocks. So across the top, we have each goal with a toggle. And under that, we will see the projects and routines. Of course, it's labeled as the project or routine. And when you create a project or routine in the system, there's a lot of automation. The project will always be labeled as a project. A routine will be labeled as a routine by the criteria that define a project versus a routine. And all the related information through the hierarchy to the higher levels is automatically generated when you create these, and then you accomplish them. So we've often seen projects informing goals, but here we have routines informing and achieving goals, a parallel level with just as much clarity, intention, and visibility and structure in the system. And that's been a real game changer for the PPV system. And as you think about the levels, you have pillars, life aspirations, goals, projects, and routines, actions. At any given level, the level up is the reason, the why you're doing that thing. So if you're looking at a goal, the life aspiration is the reason you're doing the goal. If you're looking at a life aspiration, the pillar is the reason you're doing the goal. At a project level, the goal is the reason you're doing the project. The level up is the why. The level down is the how. So for a life aspiration, the goal is how we're achieving that life aspiration. For the goal, the projects and routines are how we're achieving that. And for the projects and routines, the actions are how we're achieving those projects and routines. So there's a very clear structure at each tier that is consistent. The level above is the why, the level below is the how. And all of this just brings total clarity to what's happening at any given time. And then we have a nice goal timeline structure here where you see how mapped out over the course of a year or quarter or whatever you can achieve, you are working on achieving the things you've prioritized for that time period. And then at the bottom, we have our cycle reviews. So these are also broken out with a great clarity and visibility. You look at these structured in these toggles here. You'll see you'll have the duo cycle every 2 months. You'll have the weeks. This is just sample data, but you would typically have 8 weeks in the duo cycle. And within each week, you're going to have 7 days if you do your daily pages every day or whatever number you accomplished in terms of your daily pages. Some people just do them 5 days a week. Many people do them 7. And so you'll have your 5 to 7 days rolling up to the week. Then you'll have your 8 weeks rolling up to the duo cycle. And it's all structured here with total visibility. When you create a new page here, it automatically enters the title, so it dates and defines the week automatically for you once you set the weekly type and the date. And then it's structured within the weekly and duo cycle hierarchy. Again, we have calculations here with formulas that are averaging and giving you aggregate data for that time period, whether it's a weekly or a duo cycle time period. It's giving you the overview of data of those things that you've decided are priorities for tracking. And then you will do your weekly reviews in the weekly page here. You'll do your duo cycle reviews in the duo cycle page here. And we'll come back to the daily pages when we get into the focus zone. So the principles of the original PPV system are still here, but the technology has let us make it much more efficient, streamlined, quicker to use throughout the day with greater clarity on everything we're doing. So from the alignment zone, we can jump over to our focus zone. This is where we sit down during the day and get things done. So because we've aligned everything through the alignment zone, all of the actions that are serving our goals, that are serving our projects, and are serving our routines, and therefore up to goals and aspirations, are flowing into this daily view. This is the view for today. This is what we sit down and keep open throughout the day. At the top, we have our highest level priorities. So down here, the next row, we have all of our priorities for the day in sequence. The night before, we plan the next day. So when we sit down at our desk or open our phone the next morning, we have our priorities in order. The order goes from urgent, scheduled, so that you keep an eye on the scheduled items. Those are meetings and things with a time associated. Quick things that we can just knock out quickly. Deep focus priority numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, if you're getting 1 or 2 deep focus priorities done a day, you're moving at a great pace. Things will move and things will happen in your life if you get 1 or 2 major deep focus objectives done daily. And even if you just get 2 or 3 done a week, that is significant progress. So we really want to keep it to a minimal number of big objectives. And then we can get some quick things done, some scheduled things done, and some reminders if we have time. We'll try to squeeze them in during the day. And with this, it lays it out in order so we see what is up to do, both in each of these different priority segments, including our deep work segments. And up here, this resurfaces the most important. So anything that's, if you look at the filter here, anything that is a number 1 priority, number 2 priority, urgent or scheduled, will be up here just to keep a higher level of visibility on the most important stuff. And here's the full list. We have some quick adds. You can add through these buttons, quick things by category, by action, by type of action. So here we can add our daily pages for the day. Is there a new one? We'll just add today, and it will automatically generate today. It automatically adds the date. It automatically adds the title. It gives us our morning startup routine, our end of day reflection and summary, and our journaling. If you choose to do journaling, all of this is contained, and then a lot of this will roll up into our weekly and dual cycle reviews. And then we have quick notes, media, and documents for our neurobits, which we'll get into in the knowledge zone after we finish the focus zone here. So our top level, most important things are at the top. Our full list for the day is here. This is the compact view. C1 is compact 1. Then we have a secondary compact view, which is again in the same order, but now broken out by work, personal, and connections. Then the month view, this is particularly valuable the evening before when we're planning the next day's activities and priorities. Importantly, you'll see here, we have a list for each day. Very central to the PPV system is the idea of due dates, DO dates, the date in which you intend to do something. We also have a completion date if there's a date it needs to be completed by, but the DO date is central here. And while other systems have copied this name, none have actually implemented the practice that makes it so valuable, which is every active action that is added to your database here has to have a DO date. Now, if it's coming up tomorrow or the next day, then you have a clearer view on when you're actually going to do it. If it's going into a future date, you put the DO date at a future date, and then the action to take on it is either to do it or to reschedule it again. And if you end up bumping something many times, that's a hint that maybe you should either do it or delete it because you're not actually getting to it. So it's that nagging, that deliberate friction is actually serving a function of making you really ask whether this should be an action in your list or not. It helps you wind down the list when you have things you keep delaying that you know you're not going to get to. But by doing this, we have a short, manageable due date action list, task list for each day instead of the overwhelming, endless ones that you get in almost every system I've seen, like GTD. There's a giant, impossible system that's just mind-numbing and depressing to think about. We have a very doable, actionable, viable list for each day. And the night before, we do a final review of the prioritized list. We set the priorities for the next day, and we set a reasonable, doable list. Anything that doesn't fit realistically gets pushed to another date, and things will constantly get managed out over the next week or two. As surprises come up, then you have a specific thing you can compare it to, which is valuable, because if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing now, as things come up, you just do them, and then you never do the things that actually advance your life aspirations. You just react to other people's requests and demands on your time. So we have a system here that lays out all of our due dates, and when we look at today, we sit in this view. We have today's priorities in order by type, by priority, and we sit down and do them. Now you'll notice there's some nice features in here. It's marked as a backlog. If it's got an old due date that's prior to today, that indicates you need to move that forward, and then it's marked as today. Future ones will be marked as future. Resurface is something either you've previously scheduled to resurface at this date or is paused and put on the wait list, like these under this view here. It'll tell you things you've paused that are not going to automatically resurface, because typically these are things you're waiting on someone else. You don't want to forget about them. And in your weekly review, you will reflect on these revisits, but you will see the ones you need to check on if they're taking too long when you're waiting on someone before you put it back into your active list. So we've got a lot of breakout views that are helpful by type here, by category, work, personal, connections. We've got access to our people database. We've got a view here of our active goals and the projects and routines that are serving them, so we can, within our focus zone, jump into any of our projects very easily here. But of course, in our compact view, we're identifying which of our actions are connected to projects, so we can very quickly jump into that project if that'd be helpful to look at it from the project dashboard. And then down here, we have routine management. These are the routines we set up in the goals, projects, routines section. We can see which ones are active. And then there's a distinction between a routine that is defined as something you want to do regularly and bring into your life, and then the specific routine actions, which is the action item, a specific instance in which you're doing it. For those that you need to schedule to make sure you get them done, from the routine, from the alignment zone, you can add an action. If you give it a date, by default it'll give you today, but you can give it a future date or a current date. If it's a future date, it won't appear in this particular view because this is a today view, but you can give it a priority so it'll fit into the schedule above. Now you've just added a routine. This was inserted up here because this is today's view and we gave it today's date. If it were in a future date, it would roll into today when you reach that future date. It would be one of these future dates. So you have the ability to design routines into your life the same way you're designing actions to accomplish projects. Down here is what we did at the top. We created the daily entry page. If you open this, you will have your morning startup, your end of day, and journaling if you wish, in your daily tracking. We have a view here where you can track progress and trends over a recent time period across things that you are tracking. Super helpful. The things you track are the things you focus on and get done. And that, of course, rolls up to the weekly and the dual cycle cycles. Then we have resurfaced some of the high value things we've marked as high value across the system. And that lets us get this done. Now we also have a content zone here where you want to create a steady flow of content, whether it's for marketing or personal expression. But this is really an example of a specialty pipeline. So if it's good for any type of frequent high volume mini project, whether it's developing new products or if you're an attorney filing motions, any kind of high frequency mini project of a similar type can flow through this content zone or specialty pipeline. We have workouts tracked in a really nice system here where you apply one of these templates for types of cardio or weightlifting. The weightlifting one I think is particularly interesting because it lets you really enter very efficiently each of your workouts, each of your sets. It groups them by exercise type, which is all informed and flows up from the strength routines you have entered here. So it will bring up information relative to this, and then you'll have a whole set history that'll show you the progress of your weightlifting and strength building. And of course, we have similar things for cardio. Now moving on to the knowledge zone. In knowledge zone, we have the topic vault, we have the neurobits, people, and remembrance. Topics are what used to be called the knowledge vault. Now it's the topic vault. These are, let's go here for clarity. These are the topics that you want to accumulate knowledge and resources in. They could be any topics of interest to you. Health and wellness, finance. In the case of businesses, you could collect SOPs, relationships, whatever. These are just examples. And when you open one of these, you have a whole dashboard, not only for all the information you've gathered for that topic, but everything across your entire system that's relevant to that topic: projects, clients, workouts, content, everything. We can view these by category, which is a nice grouping with some resurfacing context at the high level view. But my favorite is this. This lists these by goals and by projects. And under each goal and project, it has all of the topics that are relevant for your active goals and your active projects. Neurobits are all of the individual pieces of knowledge and information you accumulate, whether it's a big one like courses or whether it's another big one like books or simple things like notes, meeting notes, a thought you had. All of these will be tagged to topics. And then when you look in the topic, all of those neurobits will flow up and resurface. If we look at personal development here as an example, we've got some auto data resurfacing here showing how many neurobits and actions are attached to it. Actions can also attach to topics. Here we have the high value ones, the ones that are marked as either very good or excellent. And those will resurface at the top across notes, medias, and documents. And then down here we get the full list, whether it's media, notes, documents, or actions. All of them related to this topic will resurface here. Then, of course, you can build out down here a full dashboard on this topic beyond that. But these are the things that are easily quick captured, well organized, and resurfacing in context here, in the same way that this information is also resurfacing in context. Neurobits are not only a vault, but they actually are a pipeline in the case of things like media, where you want to track what you want to plan viewing, what you are currently viewing or working on, in the case of courses, for example, and what you've completed. So there is a process flow for Neurobits, as well as the aggregation of knowledge and resources. Here we have a people database. So we have a lot of information resurfacing automatically, so you can see it at a glance, but of course you can go in and have a beautiful dashboard with all the information across the system relevant to this person and your history of interactions with them. Down here, again, we're resurfacing high-value data. Now, one of the beautiful parts of the new version of the system is this remembrance across so many aspects of the system. Let's say we're in this page here. Let's say we're in this Neurobit here. We have a notable button. This is in projects, goals, across the system, in all aspects of the system. You have the ability to tag something as notable. So if you have a Neurobit that you want to reflect on and remember, it was a notable part of your life, it's an important thing that you want to revisit, you will hit the notable button and you'll see the remembrance property over here. It will add to that. So you hit notable here, and over on the right, it pops up in the 2025 collection. Similarly, across the system, all these other things can be added. This is part of the reflection process that makes it easier to do our reviews and reflections. Then these buttons here will just jump you to different sections on the page. We come down here and we have our 2024 collection, our 2025 collection. These are the notables that we saved in each of those different time periods. And you'll see actions are saved. So actions, things you did in your daily life that were notable, you'll mark them and you'll have your notable actions here for resurfacing and reflection. You'll have Neurobits that you marked and they'll resurface. Topics from the topic vault. You'll have people that are tagged and relevant. You'll have cycles that were particularly important and notable. And all of this is resurfacing through a formula that digs it up into this nice summary here. And then when you go into the notables page, you have a beautiful, organized way to reflect on all these different parts of your life that you tagged in the moment as notable and you wanted to be part of this remembrance process. So that's a brief overview, but there's so much more nuance that we didn't have a chance to get into, and I wish we could cover. But you get the idea. It's a comprehensive way that connects all the key parts of your life, keeps you on track, identifies what you're trying to achieve ultimately in life, breaks it down into pieces, lets you track each segment at various horizon levels of scale, and then brings it right down to your daily and weekly actions so that the things you are doing, you know for certain, are advancing what matters to you most in life, and you're getting them done. All the loose loops are tracked and in their place, so you don't have to keep them all in your mind actively while you're living your life. You know there's a time and place in which they'll be addressed. At the very least, they'll resurface in your weekly or dual cycle reviews, and you can prioritize them if they've been neglected. All of this makes it work smoothly and effectively. This is not about grinding. This also saves and protects time for relationships and personal priorities. You're defining how much you want to spend on each part of your life. It's not all work. This protects parts of your life to let you recharge and re-energize and to bring richer life experiences into your life. Otherwise, we often default into the grind. By being deliberate and intentional in this way, we are having a place for our professional achievements and we are moving on it. And there is great clarity on how and where to do that and what's working and what's not. But we're also doing the same for other parts of our life, and we get to choose where the emphasis is, where the priority is in any given stage of life. And with all this, actions and information are all resurfacing and front and center at the right time, but they're all kept out of the way when you don't need them. So you have total clarity on what matters in any given instance. And this provides a controlled overall structure that flows and operates intuitively. This becomes second nature. It's so quick to go through the different steps. Even the review cycles, you spend a half hour once a week. You could do it in 20 or 15 minutes. You could do it in 10. That 20, 30 minutes will make every other hour of your week more effective. That investment of the review process will be a force multiplier across every other time of your week, regardless of what you're doing, professional, personal, or whatever. This system brings everything across your life into an interconnected system. The actions to take each day are clear. They drive toward a well-defined aspiration, and nothing slips through the cracks. Knowledge and resources grow and accumulate, making you more and more capable every day. Everything supports each other. Building these life systems is what this channel is all about. If this is of interest to you, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get updates on future videos. And please hit like if you found this video valuable. Leave thoughts or questions below, or join us in the Notion Life Design program that is relaunching again right now. That's at notionlifedesign.com. I also write the Life Design newsletter on increasing human capability. I give away several of my best Notion templates to anyone who subscribes to the newsletter. The newsletter link is also below in the description. Thanks for watching. Lots more to come.